Historical Timeline by Mary Craig for the CAA Number 3 assignment. The first court case that I'm going to discuss is Mayer v. Nebraska of 1923. In the court case of Mayer v. Nebraska, they had a ruling that established states' authority to determine the language in public schools. The court case also protected parents' rights to organize after-school activities such as weekend heritage language classes. Brown v. Board of Education, 1954 court case. In Brown v. Board of Education, Brown made it clear that English language learner students cannot be fully separated from other students. He also stated that the separation only hinders English language learners' ability to become proficient in the English language. Also, states are responsible for providing equal educational opportunities. Elementary and Secondary Act, or ESEA. This law was passed in 1965 by Congress because of the civil rights movement that helped improve the education circumstances for the language majority students. Key components of the ESEA, or Elementary and Secondary Act. They provide funds, policies, and procedures that target students from low-income families. Bilingual Education Act of 1968. This bill was introduced by Senator Ralph Lauenberg because he wanted to provide federal funding for school districts to support bilingual education. The Bilingual Education Act bill was put into place to be able to provide grants to school districts and other titled entities through a competitive grant process. The next court case is Law v. Nichols of 1974. This is the most important court decision regarding English language learners' education. The court case of Law v. Nichols concerned Chinese American students who lived in San Francisco. The students were placed in a mainstream classroom where everyone was speaking English, and these Chinese American students were not English proficient, so they were just left to sink or swim. The district tried to argue that the Chinese Americans were receiving fair treatment, but Justice William Douglas argued the fact that there is no equality of treatment merely by providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, teachers, and curriculum. The next law that we are going to discuss is the Educational Opportunities Act of 1974, or EEOA. The essence of lieu remedies, which stated that districts must implement bilingual education for English language learners, thus paving the way for the Federal Law of Educational Opportunities Act of 1974. This law was put into place because of Liu versus Nicholas case, which is the one that we just talked in the slide before, or talked about in the slide before. In section 1703F of this law declares no state shall deny educational opportunities to any individual on account of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin. Even after this, the Supreme Court still did not mandate bilingual education. The next court case is Cassandra v. Pickard of 1981. This stated the right to bilingual education suffered an even further blow in 1981 with the court case of Cassandra versus Pickard. The further blow was because this wasn't improving ELL's education. This case stated that the Raymond District fell short on meeting the requirements of the EEOA. During this court case, Mr. Cassandro claimed that Raymondville Independent School District failed to establish significant bilingual education programs. He also claimed that the school was discriminating against his Mexican-American children due to their ethnicity. Because of this case, a major outcome is now that the EEOA requires a 3-pronged test that determines whether schools are taking appropriate action to address the needs of their ELL students. Flores versus Arizona, 2000. The case of Flores versus Arizona was brought forth by parents of children that were enrolled in the Nicholas Unified School District. They tried to argue that the state failed to provide an adequate English language learner program for low-income minority students. The 3-prong test failed in this case because under the 3rd prong, a certain amount of time must pass before determination can be made about the adequacy of the programs. Because of this, many students can be harmed academically due to the fact that they could be placed in a program that does not meet the EEOA standards. Another law is No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, or NCLB. The federal policy for English language learners changed drastically with the passage of the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, because it was a new version of the ESEA, which stated that money must be provided for extra educational assistance for poor children when they show academic improvement in the school system. This is also referred to the Title I. Title VII Bilingual Education Act was replaced by Title III, Language Instruction for Limited English Proficiency in Immigrant Students. This act remains the law of the land. Another part that goes on to that is Title III, which is, we just talked about it, which is the Language Instruction for Limited English Proficiency in Immigrant Students. Title III provides formula grants to state education agency, which in turn makes subgrants to eligible local education agencies. Part A of this is LEP child is placed for the purpose of becoming more fluent in the English language. Part B of this Title III Act is instruction has to be in both English and the child's native home language. The last act that we're going to talk about is Elementary and Secondary Education Act Flexibility of 2011, or the ESEA Flexibility. The ESEA Flexibility Act was passed by the Obama administration that stated that states could apply for it and be granted flexibility from the Title I requirements of the NCLB, which, knowing from the slide before, or a few slides ago, that the Title I is where the students have to reach academic improvement in order to receive funding for their school. And this right here is my references.